Objective 5 talks about attacking a vehicle fire. All right, you will, if you enter the fire service, go on a lot of vehicle fires in your career. I love vehicle fires. They're short, they're quick, they're simple, and there's minimal paperwork on vehicle fires. So I always like those. Help me check out my gear, the pack, everything's working. It's just a nice little break in the day. So we would get these regularly. And they're over fairly quickly. That's why they never make the news. By the time the news crew gets there, the fire's already out. It should be out in a couple minutes. But certain things we have to take into account on vehicle fires because they can be dangerous. Full PPE and SCBA is the order of the day for vehicle fires. Again, back when I started, it didn't used to be, but now that is it. It's protective gear, and so we don't want to get hurt. We want to be as safe as possible, so that is the order, is that. What can we use? Portable fire extinguishers can be used, but they have a limited supply. Most of them last less than a minute. So they can be used and have been used. I have used them, but charge hose lines are very common. So in a vehicle, we kind of break it down into thirds, roughly. I know it doesn't work on every vehicle, but usually the engine compartment, we call that, and when we get on scene, we'll say a 1/3 involved vehicle fire. The interior compartment is the next third of the vehicle, so if it's just inside, we'll call that a 1/3 involved interior vehicle fire. And then the trunk or cargo area is going to be another third. Now, I know that doesn't fit every vehicle. Someone's going to say, what about my minivan? Yeah, you've got 1/3 and 2/3. So that's just kind of how we're going to deal with that. But that's kind of becomes our base point because there's so many vehicles, is third involved. Once it's more than a third involved, we kind of take extinguishers out of the equation and we're going to be focusing on hose lines. What's the minimum hose line we can use on a vehicle fire? 1.5 inches. Okay, good. Putting out about how many gallons a minute?
150.
About 150 gallons a minute. Good. All right. So, vehicles, where can they be powered? Well, gas, that's still probably the most common thing out there that powers our vehicles. How many people have a vehicle that you drove here today that does not have a gas engine? All right, so that's how popular they are. They're moving away from that. As you know, electricity is becoming big, but diesel. No one has a diesel vehicle here. Okay, sometimes at Last Academy, I know we had one that did. But diesels out there, usually your big trucks, your big 18-wheelers, your over-the-road transport stuff, that's going to be diesel. And for a while they put those into vehicles, you know, your standard. I had a Volkswagen Rabbit diesel, small car. But diesel engines were thought to be fairly efficient, better in mileage, and the thought was diesel was going to be cheaper than gasoline, and it just never really worked out that way. Electricity. So actually, let's move over down here. First, hybrids. All right, so a hybrid vehicle means it runs on a hybrid power source of gas engine with electricity. Anyone own a hybrid vehicle? Okay, in your families, you got hybrid. What do you have?
The Ford Escape 2020.
Escape? Who said they have one?
Me.
Oh, what do you have? Okay.
I have a 21 Ford Edge and a 18 Prius.
Okay, my wife drives a Prius. And the Honda Insight and Toyota Prius came out in 1998 as our first hybrid vehicles. They run on a gas engine. When you start the vehicle, a gas engine warms up. Once it hits operating temperature, it can shut itself off. And if you have no demand, it will shut itself off. The electric motor will then drive the vehicle until you need more than the electric motor gives. The electric motor will give you, if I'm driving through my subdivision, all I need is electric motor. Okay, but then when I pull out onto the main road and I hit the gas, then the gas engine kicks in seamlessly. I don't have to hit a button. It all happens behind the scenes. I don't feel anything. If you listen and you don't have the radio on, then you'll hear it. But other than that, it's all designed to work fairly seamlessly. So the Toyota Prius, there's a couple other ones that are totally hybrid. But then hybrids started, as they get more popular, and we started working the kinks out in them, Then we started making them options. So right now you can get a Toyota Camry with a hybrid option. You can get a Ford Escape with a hybrid option. You can get a
Edge.
Ford Edge with a hybrid option. So it's becoming more mainstream, hybrid vehicles. I've got a vehicle on order that is a hybrid option. The 2022 Maverick, I think I told you that I'm getting, yeah. So that's on order with the hybrid engine. The salesman who I'm buying it from has purchased one, but he wants one with the gas engine. So we're all still backed up because they're not making enough. So eventually I hope to get it. But the next generation after that is going all electric. Yeah. Yeah. So if we take the gas gauge in your car and convert it to electric charge, now we are talking a fully electric vehicle. It doesn't have the hybrid where the gas engine is going to kick in. It's fully electric. It needs the charge in order to run. Now, the first couple electrical vehicles out there, the Chevy Volt, V-O-L-T, there's a company out there that makes a Bolt now, B-O-L-T, but the Volt and the Nissan Leaf, those were the first all-electric vehicles out there, but they had issues. Depending on terrain, because you take more power going up a hill than you do going down a hill, you take more power going over a dirt road than you do a smooth road. You could go on one charge 25 to 100 miles. Okay, not practical if you want to go to Chicago or Frankenmuth or Toledo, that you have one of these. So we knew they had to get better, and they are getting better. We're getting much more range out of our electric vehicles. So my guess is in 10 years, when I say who's got an electric vehicle, a third of the hands are going to go up, that we're going to have electric. CNG or LNG, compressed natural gas or liquefied natural gas. So a lot of city buses, school buses, are running on these. A little bit more cleaner, a little bit cheaper in some cases. Biofuels are regenerated, repurposed, like cooking oils and things like that they get from restaurants. So they're still doing some work on that. I don't know a ton about it. I know that there are some out there.
Is the corn fuel, is that under like fuel or is that?
Now that's like an E85, so we consider that in the gas category. And then hydrogen is not many out there that are hydrogen. They're experimenting with that. Still a little bit of experimental stuff, not mainstream on hydrogen vehicles. All right, so vehicle scene safety, the stuff we need to think about. Okay, so, and I'm going to explain this slide a little bit more than I need to in the future, but okay, this circle here is traffic control. You got to think about traffic, because traffic wants to go. Okay, so your vehicle fire is not the most important thing in their life. Right now, it's the most important thing in our life, but not theirs. What is that?
Walt's theme song. Good one.
Oh, all right. All right, so traffic control, we've got to make plans. All of our trucks have some type of cones on them that we can put on. Police may or may not show up to vehicle fires because they know they're going to be out very quickly, but they do know that we need help with traffic. We usually only send one engine on vehicle fires, so they will oftentimes come and help us out with the traffic component of it. Another one is victim extrication. So sometimes people are trapped in vehicles. It hit a guardrail. Another car hit it and it's burning, so the doors don't open. So that will happen every now and then where we need to get someone out. So that becomes one of these circles. And the thing I'm getting at by explaining the circles is see how they overlap. There's overlapping stuff in there. So you have to decide what's most important. Well, really, obviously, it's not much of a thing. Victim, always number one. The car, always put that near the end. My crew is going to be traffic control, so I want this up here as well. Fire control, so victim, traffic, fire control might be next on that list. Let's get the fire out. All the problems go away once the fire gets put out. Okay, but hazards. So is this vehicle leaking gasoline, oil, antifreeze, brake fluid, any of those types of things? Did the battery break? Is that leaking out there? So we got to mitigate that hazard and start to clean that up a little bit. Vehicle stabilization. So as we did on our extrication day, we want to stabilize the vehicle. We want to put some type of a chalk or a wedge in there to make sure that it doesn't roll away. Those brake lines can burn. The person may have had such a hurry to get out of there that they did not put the vehicle in park or whatever. So we need to make sure that we've got that blocked or stopped. And someone was explaining earlier, I think Bates, you, about a vehicle that started rolling away that was on fire. That happens. And ignition source isolation. So we want to shut off the power. So 10 years ago would have been easy. How do you shut off a vehicle? Turn the key, right? Set it on the seat. That way the towing company has it down the road in case they need to do repairs on it. Nowadays, how many people put keys in their car? I do with the Danger Ranger. And you do, and you do, and you do, and you do. Okay, but the rest of you, you push a button, push a button, push a button, push a button, push a button. All right, so that's becoming much more common. But what do you have to have near you? You have to have the key fob near you. That is called a proximity key. It typically will only work in a 16-foot radius from the vehicle. Typically, that's what the standard is. So 16 feet away is where we want that to be, because if your car is turned on, the fuel pump is turned on in some cases. So if the car is in the on position and we're putting out a vehicle fire and we can't put it out, it's because there's gasoline and the gasoline is still pumping. And they may have just filled up and they've got 15 gallons that's coming out. We're going to be here for a while on that. So we need to shut off the vehicle. So look for a way to shut it off. Injuries. All right. So we used to call these 5-mile-an-hour bumpers. So if the person in behind you bumped your car, didn't really cause any major damage, it just kind of squished in the back bumper a little bit. Same thing in the front. They are bumpers that are in a cylinder of fluid, hydraulic. Okay, so you can squish them a little bit, like those stress balls. Squish them and they, deform, that kind of thing. So there is a fluid in here and here on the rear bumper and the front bumper. What happens when fluids heat up? They expand. So these can come out and shoot. So we don't want to approach a vehicle from the rear or from the front. Typically from sides in this zone here and in this zone here. Okay, components under pressure. So that's pretty much going to be it. The bumpers. But who has got a lift gate on your trunk or hatch or tailgate where those two air cylinders hold it up? Okay, several of us. Okay, common. So if you have those, then those are pressurized struts. Those can blow. Okay, but that's typically the trunk and the hood. The hood also has those struts in them, and those they can blow. Some of them are just air assists in those, but it's compressed. Okay, you have to grab and pull to get it down. Now it's compressed, and then as it heats up or as you lift it, then it opens. But eventually, you might not open it, and it needs to expand, and it's going to blow. So that's typically the fronts and the rears you need to avoid for all of those reasons. Put your trunk on the rear bumper. Good. Got it. All right, broken fuel line, we talked about that. What can you do with the broken fuel line? Crimp it with pliers. All of our engines have toolboxes on them. Plug with rubber, plastic, or wooden plugs. So just a graduated plug. Okay, tap it in there, hit it a couple times, good to go. Broken or punctured fuel tanks. Plug it with rubber, plastic, or wooden plugs, or seal with a fuel-resistant sealing compound. So most of our vehicles have on it a kit of like a putty that you can form and jam into a hole and it will stop a leak. And obviously it's resistant to gasoline and flammable liquids and things like that. All right, hose strings for vehicle fires. So most vehicle fires, 1 or 2, rarely ever are you gonna see 2, but you could, 1.5 lines. All right, larger vehicle fires, you can use a 2.5-inch line, may be necessary. 18-wheeler vehicle with all the cargo burning, yeah, okay, I could go 2.5 on that. But typically you're 1.5 or 1 3/4. Your department has probably got one size of a tack line, either 1.5 or 1 3/4. So you typically aren't going to mix. My department has both 1.5 and 1 1/4, usually not, because it's too easy to get those confused. Unless you've seen them a million times, you can't really tell that 1/4-inch difference between the two. So you have one or the other, and that's what we're going to use for vehicle fires. Defensive, all right, so you're not going to try to, it's defensive anyway, but if you're going to throw it from a long ways and you're not going to get close to it, then can you use a master stream? Yeah. What if it's on the 4th floor parking deck, and I can see it from here? Can I get my master stream up there and shoot and knock a whole bunch of fire down? Okay, so that's kind of what they're talking about there. Use your master stream on that one, and then by that time, you're hooked up to a hydrant, and then you've got your standpipe going through the parking garage, and then your crew has got up there, flushed it, attached the hose, and then they can go do the mop-up operations from there. So that's what it should look like, only what's missing?
Fire.
The flames, yeah. Yeah, we couldn't really mop that one up on this one. But, yeah, firefighters with full TPC and SCBA, that's how we should be looking these days. That's a 1 3/4-inch charge hose line, yeah.
I thought that like with the normally if you're gonna do the attack operations, you don't really use like flash protection because like it can melt your gear.
I'm sorry?
I thought like the flash protection like that the guys are wearing on that scene. I thought that you don't necessarily wear that because it like melts to your gear.
What flash protection are you talking about?
Like the reflective vest.
Okay, yes, you're correct. Normally, we do not wear the retroreflective vests when we are fighting a fire. Now, if you're on the scene of a vehicle fire and you're the engineer, you're not going to be actively fighting the fire, a vest is appropriate. If you're the incident commander, a vest is appropriate. If you are attacking the vehicle fire, then we want the vest off. All vests have breakaways, so even if you made this mistake, you can pull it off and the Velcro will come undone and just leave it in a pile and fix it up later. But yes, you should not have that because that can melt to your gear and that needs to be replaced. So that's an expensive one. Good pickup. All right. Position hose line between the burning vehicle and the exposures. So you're going to take it off your truck and you're going to go towards it. All there is to it. Position uphill of the fire in case there is a hill. You don't want to be going down where the fuel is going to be going, where the dirty water is going to be going, or where the downwind as well, where the gases are going to be going, the smoke. And attack at a 45-degree angle. So again, they're saying anywhere from here to here to here, or here to here to here. Avoiding these areas because of what we just talked about earlier, all those gas and air inflated cylinders. Extinguish fire near vehicle occupants. If you see someone in there, try to protect them first. Issue an all clear when the occupant's out of the vehicle. Extinguish ground fire under the vehicle. Extinguish remaining fire in or around the vehicle. So 99% of your fires are going to go out using water, using standard firefighting techniques, not a problem. The stuff that's down low, set your pattern to a more straight pattern and bounce it off the ground and hit anything that might be burning underneath the engine as opposed to trying to crawl underneath there in that dirty stuff. Yep, all folks can go.